Paul is here in the, and if Michael would, he has said that he's not necessarily wanting to address council, but is available to answer questions, and he's representing Hines Bailey on behalf of the applicant. We've also got people attending that aren't speaking, which is Shane Delforce, Sue Ryan Langford and Ian Webber. And we've got requests to be linked in from Sue Pollard, Shane McIntosh, Angela Dawson and Kellen Jenny Hinchin. So welcome to all of you. First up, Fred. Is Fred available? Would you like to come up and, if you're speaking if you use the dais, that's useful because we are video conferencing, and these are the speakers that are around the room. They're really quite strong and they make it quite clear for people who aren't in the room to be able to hear. So I'm just going to set my timer. Fred, are you right to start?
Yeah, guys.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Firstly, let me state how disappointed and frustrated I've been with the seemingly hidden agenda and procrastinated approach with regard to the rezoning application. I purchased Lot 201 November 10, residing on the eastern side of Ironbark, leading the debacle towards Bimberdine Drive, to build in what was advertised and promised as a rural land, knowing the land behind me was E3 and not to be built in. Make note, I strongly rejected the rezoning directly behind my boundary and have submitted such in a register that is still to be addressed from our request from council, although I understand for our town to flourish we need diversified land offerings. But first, a couple of stats straight out of your own annual report. The Muswellbrook residents obviously grew by 675 people between 2011 and 2018, 96 people per year on average through that period of time. If we look at the average, 2.3 people therefore in the household, and at worst case, we're only looking at 43 new premises required per year. And that's by council's own annual report. Furthermore, the census growth of 1.9% between 2011 and 2018, if we use that information and do a 10-year projections, it's only requiring 960 residents, requiring potentially, worst case, 400 homes, not potentially 2,000 new lots that are going to be available if this subdivision goes ahead. Council's state we're in a period of sustained growth toward economic resilience. Seriously, guys? It's really frustrating. A quick search today showed that today on domain.com, 181 vacant land lots are for sale in Muswellbrook, and there's 624 properties for sale in the Muswellbrook and surrounding area. These DAs, there's a current DA in for 600 blocks with Eastbrook links, top up the existing 100 that are being repaired and not yet sold. Existing land approved behind Robert Hall's Highbrook Estate, Ironbark, and even Queen Street, and we want to add another 500 blocks? Guys, again, the last census basically identified occupied dwellings in Muswellbrook were 5,761. However, unoccupied dwellings were 1,065. This is 16% of the existing occupants or the existing residents that is not occupied. I ask council to respect the existing residents as stated in the MRRS. Page 8 states the development will respect and respond to the character of the area and identify the settlement hierarchy of the region. Furthermore, states the existing circumstances for adjoining land zoned for the large residential will effectively be mirrored by this proposal. This is far from the current plan. If the rezoning is to be approved, I and 21 direct existing residents with a direct rear boundary plead with council to provide one guaranteed condition.
Jason, can I just address
as a part of Clause 6.3 of the Muswellbrook Let 2009, that being the land adjoining our rear boundaries be an exact mirror image of a 4,001 acre block as an acknowledged respect for our previous commitment to the estate. That's all I'm asking. This ensures that council and the proponent commit to the existing residents with a specific DCP, the Development Control Plan, to be adopted as per Clause 6.3, to be adopted referencing the mirror image lots of 4,000 squares or 1 acre. This ensures that any future council members or any prospective developers comply before any subdivision of land may proceed. This protects the rural feel that we initially purchased. It has to be said, this is not a lot to ask, considering that you're replacing the existing views of what we see sun rising over the Gentle Breeze, bounty kangaroos, cattle grazing, and all the wildlife, and you're going to replace it with 500 by 600 square metre blocks. The officer's recommendation, item 3, page 8, notes council resolve to develop a specific or a site-specific DCP in accordance with the plan dated the 6th of May. This is not acceptable. The full effort to amend the plan with the proposed R5 between 1,500 and 2,000 squares adjoining the land is not in line with the mirror image. We all want a reasonable outcome, and the offer is a complete insult. We want to support and grow the prosperity of Muswellbrook. However, surely existing residents with the shared boundaries must be considered in line with the MRRS. A guarantee the council and the proponent amend the current plan in line with the MRRS. A guarantee the council and the proponent amend the current plan and include such a note in line with clause 6.3 of the Muswellbrook LEP to mirror the existing land image to ensure that those 1 acre lots adjoin the existing residence is favourable for all parties. Thank you for your time, and I trust you will consider my request and respect the wishes of long-term residents of Ironbark Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. Stop that. I've failed to mention, my name's Fiona Plessman, I'm the General Manager here, and some of the councillors are also in the room and some of the other senior staff, and we might be able to make a few comments towards the end, but are there any particular questions to go to Fred before we move on from any of the councillors?
Well, I might just ask one, Fred. I found that very helpful and I think quite generous as well in terms of the proposition about the mirror housing, which you said to you was the one thing you want guaranteed. And can I just ask that really is your position? That's the one thing you want above anything else?
I hate to say it, Martin, yes. You know, we're resigning the fact that the timeframes that have been allowed, and you know, there's a raft of scenarios I could put forward. But at the end of the day, you know, in the essence of progressing, we know this will be some time, but that just gives us that raw feel. I personally brought in the first couple of blocks in stage 2, and I purposely chose that, obviously, while adjoining the E3, because I knew no one would build in. That was the purpose. Otherwise, I would have chosen another location or elsewhere. So again, I love the area. I like what it's got to offer. You know, I throw a lot of scenarios. I've been a Muswellbrook born and bred since I'm 5-year-old. And guys, we want to stay here, but all I'm asking for my personal, well-being is mirror that image on the back fence, that 4-foot barbed wire fence, mirror it through, push it through, then put your road on, and then build through your 600 squares. A 1,500 or 2,000 square block, what fence are we going to have on the back of us? You know, so all I'm asking is the MRRS, you know, states that mirror image, and that's all I'm asking.
The council, I think, certainly indicated that, but I just think it's extraordinarily generous. Usually when objectors come in, they throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink.
Yeah, I think we're past that point, Martin.
But to come in just with that, I think, is a very generous position.
Hi, the person you have called is not available. Please leave a short 10-second.
To allow time for all the people that have requested to speak, we do need to move on. I'd like to invite Neil up, Neil Pollard, to come up. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, councillors, for the opportunity to speak. My speech will probably be a little bit shorter than Fred, so we'll claw back a little bit of time. I have about a dozen points I wanted to raise. So the proposal suggests that there is a 2% population growth in Muswellbrook over the last 7 years. But does not justify the potential release of these 600 lots when there are already over 700 lots either available or currently going through the DA process. There is already 10 years of supply already available without this development. On page 55 of the proposal quotes, there has been no new subdivisions for residential purposes in the Shire in the past 3 years. This is purely because there is no demand in Muswellbrook currently. Industry is on the decline and current workforce is transient. Providing small blocks does not entice people to live in this area. The proposal mentions identifying additional lands to be zoned as R5, but minimal lots have been allocated as R5s in this proposal. The proposal also mentions identifying 2 different minimum lot sizes for areas zoned R5 to reflect the transition between existing large lots and proposed standard residential lots. The transition consists of 1 half street, which is a minimal transition, bordering Ironbark Ridge. We're proposing the development area that is visible from Ironbark Ridge is to be R5 lots to the same size as the existing Ironbark Ridge development, and that the closest area to Eastbrook Links over the hill is developed as R1, reflecting that estate. This would be a true reflection of transitioning existing lot sizes on either side of the development proposed. In its current form, the land does not represent an extension of existing large residential lots development and repeating the settlement patterns in the immediate locality as detailed on page 22 of the proposal. The rezoning does not provide subdivision into a range of residential lot sizes consistent with adjoining development, as adjoining land sizes is not consistent with the existing development. The land sizes are small at between 1,500 and 2,000 square metres on the Ironbark Ridge side, which currently exists at 4,000 square metre lots. We are requesting that the Council votes for option 2 as detailed on page 13 of the proposal and further makes changes to the proposing plan. The proposal amendment has not divided zoned land suitable for the variety of residential development and as such provides unnecessary continuing housing supply and lack of choices, with lot sizes limited to a dozen quarter-acre blocks and 600 R1 blocks. As detailed on page 22 of the proposal, the existing adjoining land use of large lots, residential will effectively be mirrored by this proposal. This statement is incorrect. It does not mirror. The proposal responds to the concern of devaluating our properties. This will occur on a gradual basis, most likely over a period of 20 years, the proposal states. Is the proposal saying that this is okay to devaluate our properties over the course of 20 years? The proposal states that 90% of the Shire's population lives on R1 lots. Does that not say that we need more R5 lots in the Muswellbrook Shire for diversity? The proposal also states that the Council has a goal of diversifying the employment available in the Shire. However, I fail to see that the Council is interested in providing diversity of lots to accommodate these people. And finally, the proposal states that the current owners are local and it is not in their interest to provide low quality subdivision next to their Ironbark rural residential subdivision. The vision from Mrs. Webber was for the estate to be rural living, and original blocks were sold with the surrounding area advertised as being an extension of the existing Ironbark stages. Mrs. Webber would be heartbroken to see houses stacked wall to wall within R1 lots. This was not her vision and certainly not her legacy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Neil, sorry. The next speaker is Grant Lloyd.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Got a few points that I disagree with the documentation that Council has sent for us to review. On page 17, the intended outcome is to provide land that will allow subdivision into a range of residential lot sizes consistent with adjoining land use. That's a pretty loose statement, but to me it means that on the back of the new proposed development, that would be the same as what's on the other side of the existing development, which has been stated 4,000 plus square metre blocks. And it says enable the logical extension of and connection between existing residential areas, which it's not really a logical extension between existing areas when it's from one size dramatically down to a much smaller size of 600 square metres. The development will respect and respond to the character of the area and the identified settlement hierarchy of the region, which to me isn't being carried out if the reduction from one back fence to the next back fence is a reduction of more than 50%. And as Fred said, my impression when I got up there, which I suppose counts for nothing, it's only an impression, was that being E3, it's going to remain E3. So why would anyone think an environmental land would change to residential? That could be naive of me, but that was my belief, and I'm sure it was everyone else's belief that brought up there originally. New residential areas will be planned with streets that make it easy for people to walk and cycle and with recreational and open space. Whilst there has been, let's say, more open space added from the initial plan we've seen in December last year, November, December last year, I don't think there's any recreational area in there. And the open space, whilst it's great to see a bit more added, is more for waterway, water runoff to stormwater drains than an area for people to use. And on page 108, the document from Hines Bailey, we have a comment at the bottom of the first page. We further note it was a directive in regard to layout of the previous Director of Engineering, Mr. Neil Pope, that open space be kept to an absolute minimum to reduce cost of future ongoing maintenance of open space areas. So there's a contradiction in those statements, and it's a bit worrying that Council has the opinion that open space is just a menace to be maintained as opposed to benefit the population to enjoy, which I think is pretty common knowledge that people benefit from being outside more than inside. The responses that were given to the submissions that the residents put in, there's a continuing, I suppose, the same basic question was raised, and then there was an answer provided, which was, in a lot of instances, not answering the question at all. It was just words from local environment plan or other council documents. Inadequate infrastructure, someone said schools are reaching capacity. Muswellbrook Fair, which is on that side of town, and the parking is virtually full up. Traffic up Rutherford Road is so congested that it comes to a standstill at times, with an added increase of numerous dwellings in the future, obviously not straight away. It hasn't been addressed whatsoever in the council response. It says that the final street network will be subject to detailed design work as part of future subdivision applications. Street widths and geometry will need to comply with the engineering standards. Fair enough, but the actual problem is the town's infrastructure and say shopping centre there's no plan to address the situation, which obviously is in the future, but we're looking at a 10-year, 20-year plan here, so that's not being addressed in any documents. Environmental, the land is currently zoned E3. Why was it zoned this way, and what was changed that it should now be zoned R1, R5? Answer, the site was most likely zoned E3 environment minimum as it contains remnant native vegetation amongst pasture. It doesn't say why it should be not E3 anymore.
Excuse me, Mr. Lloyd, are you almost finished?
Pretty close.
Yep, great, okay.
I'll just, flies, we're having fun. We note that all the land immediately surrounding this proposal is owned by BHP and is under environmental protection, thus all residents can be confident that this land being open space for the foreseeable future, which is exactly what we thought when we bought the land. So I can look at that if my time's up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lloyd. Could I now invite Shannon Foster to come and speak?
Evening, everyone. I think I bring a different perspective up here because a lot of the residents know that I've recently purchased lot 106 in Ironbark, as in within 2 weeks. It was brought to my attention that there was rezoning and things were happening at the land behind my property, or my new property. However, all this information I had to digest in the last 24 hours, so I don't have much to contribute. I can go on and bring up all these other points, but I think they've been said. At the end of the day, I just wanted to bring my personal say to it and my concerns from the plan that I've received. Obviously, developments and progression, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? I've got no problem with advancement and moving forward and developing, but the biggest seller for us and my family was originally from Sydney. Everything's compact. We moved to Muswellbrook. Yeah, it's spread out a bit more. You get the country feel, but we've just invested quite a lot of money for the lifestyle that was sold. You know, the country lifestyle. That's where we wanted to bring our kids up. That's where we wanted to, you know, the kids walking down the streets and have that open plain living. The potential that I could have from this plan, 13 to 15 properties along my back fence, which is only a 3-foot wire fence at this stage, is quite concerning. There is a pasture of land there that's obviously been, it's called offset land. I don't know what that's for, or what it's going to be, whether it be a park or just left how it is. But having 2 cul-de-sacs based off a strip of land that's probably 30 to 50 metres wide is very concerning. I agree with Fred and Fred's proposal pretty strongly that progression is going to happen. There's no issue with that. But what I do think is the initial owners who bought there and new owners who have invested there, that have bought for the lifestyle, they should be respected, and it should be something that is put forward in future development plans. At the end of the day, these plans may have been in place for 10 years, that's fine, but things do change, and a lot of people have invested a lot of money in that area. So I agree with Fred, like I said, have a mirror image on the back. If I share a 3-foot wire fence with another 4,000 block and that's what I'm looking onto, then I can accept that, you know, but to have potentially 13 to 15 properties within 2 cul-de-sacs on my back fence, I think that's a bit pushing the boundaries a bit. So that's all I ask, is that, you know, we come to an agreement. The development's going to go forward, things are going to move forward, we all know that, but if we can just come to an agreement, mirror image what's there, keep things equal, so at least we're not looking out on 500 properties, we're looking out onto another yard that's similar to what we've purchased and invested in. So, like I said, I've only had very limited time to look over everything, but I just thought I'd bring my personal thing to the table. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shannon. We only have a few minutes left. Mr. Cole, did you want to actually say anything in particular?
I will just respond to a couple of things, if that's okay.
Yes, it might be better if you could come up so that we can hear you. Thank you.
So I'll just respond to a couple of the points that were made. I'm not sure where Fred gets 2,000 lots from. There's only 400. So just a correction there, there's literally 400 on this piece of paper. And it is a rezoning, it is not a DA. This is not the final layout. It is a rezoning that we're talking about tonight, not a DA. So it's all open to bigger lots changing to the responding to the market. It's a concept for rezoning purposes. We're talking about zoning land, not subdividing land. So there's a difference, which a lot of the responses that came back to us seem to be thinking this was a DA, or it was going to be this is the final layout. While it may be close to what it is, it's going to be subject to VA conditions, it's going to be subject to talks with council, it's going to be subject to open space discussions, it's going to be subject to further flora and fauna, it's going to be subject to further things. This is a rezoning, not a subdivision.
You've only got about 30 seconds, Michael.
The only other, the traffic is, we have done traffic reports and we have had RMS sign off on it. The reason we don't go into too much detail now is the Muswellbrook bypass may come, it will change the intersection requirements if it comes. We've had exactly that situation that's going with a 400 lot subdivision up there. It completely changes the requirements of the town when that sort of stuff happens. And as we're saying, the transitioning of the lots, Ironbark Ridge is one element, the 2000. We're also joining into the residential on the other side, and I believe we've provided a nice transition, 2,000 square metres. It's not a small block of land, 2,000 square metres, it's half an acre. Well, you guys have got an acre. Yeah. If you guys have got an acre, 2,000 square metres is still a big block of land. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much, everyone. That closes our public participation. Council's about to move into its ordinary council meeting, which needs to start almost in 30 seconds. So, you can stay and choose.